Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. I'm Prisma Amador, and we are so excited to have you here today. So, since students are going back to school, many families may feel a little bit of stress, anxiety, maybe a little bit sadness, right? And there may be a lot of questions with those emotions. So, today we have one of our amazing therapists, Laura Garza, and she is helping us answer some questions that you may have for her. So, Laura, thank you so much for being here today. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. School is about to start back, so we are getting prepared to help all of our families and especially our kiddos and teens. My name is Laura Garza, as Prisma said. I am an LCSW here at MJS, Modern Jane Solutions. I primarily see children and adolescents, so as the lead child and adolescent therapist, I oversee a couple of our other therapists who also see child and adolescents, so that is the topic that we are focused on primarily this month with school coming back into play. I also oversee some of our master's level interns and do some mentorship work with some of our newer therapists here in the office.
Yes. So Laura actually did my master's level internship and she
Yeah.
was a great supervisor. So I'm so
Yes.
excited to have you
Yeah.
here
It's
today.
so awesome to see you continue to grow.
Ah, okay, Laura. So your first question that you have is so like what are some common mental health challenges that kids face during the back to school period?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, as I said earlier, we're preparing for the school year starting, which means why I say that is because it's a transition, right? We are coming off of 2 to 3 months of vacation, of family time, of home time, of less structured environments and settings.
Mhm.
And so, we feel a little bit better, or sometimes we feel a little more stress. And so, this transition period, we tend to see with kiddos just a little bit more stress, anxiety, sometimes sadness, sometimes irritability. And so I want to encourage parents that's not a bad thing, right? But we do want to prepare you, right? So what to look for is, your kiddo might be a little bit more resistant and say, I
Mhm.
don't want to go to school, or I'm not ready.
Mhm.
They may struggle to wake up in the mornings or even have challenges falling to sleep and getting to bed early.
Mhm.
So usually what I tend to encourage parents is try to get into a routine ahead of time. Some of
Yeah.
schools start at different times, but
Mhm.
even if that's a few days before, don't be discouraged that if your routine you picked out or identified doesn't quite work in the
Mhm.
first couple of weeks. Just make some adjustments, right? And
Mhm.
also for parents, recognizing that this is also a transition for you as well, right?
Yeah.
It might be kiddos going into starting school in general, right? And going
True.
off into pre-K or kindergarten. It might be your kiddo going from elementary school to middle school to high school. Those are big transitions. And so when
Mhm.
we don't know what to expect sometimes, that creates a little bit more worry, fear,
Mhm.
sadness, anger. And so all I encourage families and kiddos to do is take your deep breaths, utilize your coping skills.
Yeah.
Get familiar with a little bit of the unknown, right? You're going to be
Yeah.
meeting new teachers, you're going to be
Mhm.
meeting new classrooms. You'll have some of your old friends, some old classmates that are familiar, which is helpful, but you're also going to be meeting a lot of new people, and the expectations are there too.
Mhm.
So give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
Just practice your routines, have
Mhm.
those conversations, and prepare and plan as much as you can. And if you need
Mhm.
that help, that's what we're here for.
Yeah. No, I think those were a lot of great points. Some things that I wanted to mention. So, like, I know in the beginning you had mentioned that, kids might not want to wake up,
Mhm.
and some of those signs. How do you know when it's like just, common? Because some kids just aren't morning people, right?
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
there are kids that genuinely just don't want to go because something's affecting them. How can you
Mhm.
tell the difference?
Yeah, so this is a little tricky sometimes with
Mhm.
kids and teenagers. What we focus on is behavior. If your kiddo is displaying some behaviors that are not typical, that are not norm to them, you know
Mhm.
your kiddo's best, right?
Mhm.
Just kind of maybe taking a stance of curiosity, right?
Okay.
Okay, what's happening, right? Talk to me, let me know what's going on, how can I help? And that's kind of where I say the routine is really important of
Yeah.
going ahead and planning that. Okay, how can we make morning routines fun if we're not a morning person,
True. Yeah.
right? Um, Rewards and consequences,
Yeah.
right? Within healthy limits and
Mhm.
appropriateness. But essentially, if we get through these first couple of tasks, then we get a
Mhm.
break. Or if, we get through these couple of tasks, we get a high five or we get to pick
Okay.
out
Yeah.
breakfast.
Mhm.
The same for dinner and nighttime routines, right? As
Mhm.
if we get through these tasks, we get to pick dinner or we get
Mhm.
to get a 5-10 extra minutes of TV
Mm-hmm.
time or phone time. So we want to do those healthy things, but also the same for consequences, right? Is that we can take some time away, we can add a healthy behavior we want to see better. In terms of identifying those behaviors that maybe concerning, right, is if they are persistent over time, is what I would
Okay.
say for
Yeah.
parents to look out for, because kiddos can have a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Teenagers tend to want to be to themselves at
Mm-hmm.
times, want their alone time, want their privacy. Teenagers often are going to be focused on their social relationships and wanting to be on the phone and connecting with their
Mm-hmm.
peers. And so those are not necessarily things out of the norm. I would just say to look out for the persistency. Again, you know your children
Yeah.
well, and so just being cautious and curious about what they're getting into and where they're starting to explore, and go from there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And I know earlier you had also mentioned use some coping skills. So talk to
Mm,
me like if I know nothing about coping skills,
yes.
what are those?
Yeah. So what I like to say is that coping skills are those kind of first set of tools that you're going to
Mhm.
use, right? The deep breathing we often hear. The deep breathing isn't as effective for me. Fair. It's not everybody's favorite tool or most
Mhm.
effective tool, but there's also, taking breaks, walking outside of the space that you're in,
Mhm.
verbalizing and saying, hey, I need a moment. This isn't working for me, or I'm upset and I need some time.
Yeah.
A lot of our kids or teenagers will say that. And sometimes as parents or as adults, we want to help and we want to say, well, let's talk about it. Sometimes talking about it right away isn't the
Yeah.
most
Mhm.
effective.
Mhm.
However, that's where we implement those regulating skills. Let's just take a moment,
Yeah.
right? Music, artwork, drawing,
Mhm.
puzzling, anything that kind of allows the mind to rest and the body to rest and
Mhm.
come from, maybe a 10
Yeah.
intensity or maybe a 6 intensity down to a 3, right?
Mhm.
Or down to a 2. It doesn't always have
Yeah.
to be that one, really calm state.
Mhm.
And then we can go back and teach those additional coping skills of how do we verbalize what we need to say, right? How do
Mm.
we problem solve using our
Yeah.
critical thinking skills? So there's a couple of steps to coping skills. But if
Uh-huh.
we start with let's just calm our body, let's just come to
Yeah.
a place where we can think and have
Mhm.
all of those healthy connections in our mind, then we're off to a good start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think those coping skills are really good, not just for kids, but adults too, right?
Yes.
Like, I
Yeah.
feel like, have to relate that sometimes we get
Mm-hmm.
home from work and we're
Mm-hmm.
exhausted, and then our kid does something and it irritates
Yeah.
us. So maybe we need also need to utilize those coping skills.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. It is challenging to
Mhm.
have to manage your own emotions and your
Mhm.
own responses
Yeah.
in addition to another individual's, whether that is your child, whether that is your partner, whether that is a close family or friend who's
Mhm.
assisting you and helping you. One of the many things that teachers have to do, right,
Yeah.
is that they're responsible for a classroom of kiddos.
Mhm.
They themselves need those breaks and moments
Mhm.
of self-care and moments to just regulate, to be able to then come back and help kids learn this, because that's the key important thing that we want to remember,
Mhm.
is that kiddos and teens are learning these things, right? While they
Mhm.
have many strengths, they're also still in stages of development where they don't know all the things that we know as
That's true.
adults and as parents. And so it's our job to sometimes take a step back and say,
Mhm.
okay, how can I model to my kiddo or
Mhm.
to the student
Yeah.
what we can do? And sometimes that's, saying, hey, let's together go take a break or a walk, or
Mm.
let's together go do
Yeah.
this to calm ourselves down and distract
Mhm.
ourselves, and then we can come back and tackle this problem.
Yeah. And I like how you said that, because that way it feels like you're doing something together,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes parents will say, like, oh, I feel like there's a disconnect, or we're not bonding, or they don't want to
Sure.
talk to me. So even if
Hmm.
you just go on a walk or do something that they
Yeah.
also like to do,
Yeah.
would help them too. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. So the other question that I had was, what are some ways that parents can um, kind of talk to their child about their feelings, but like in a non-intrusive way, right? We had
Sure.
already highlighted some of it,
Hmm.
but like maybe with teens, right? Teens are a little bit
Hmm.
harder because they might go to their room, they want
Hmm.
to get on their electronics, and so
Hmm.
parents want to talk to their teens, but maybe they don't know how to approach it, right? It's a different
Hmm.
generation, so it's like, okay, how can I connect with them?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so I would circle back to where I said earlier, taking a stance at curiosity. Another word that comes to mind is creativity,
Mhm.
especially with kids and teenagers, right?
Mhm.
They are in different stages of development. So some of that behavior is age appropriate, is developmentally appropriate. So as an adult, as a therapist, as someone who helps parents with their communicating or improving their communicating with their family members, is meeting them where they're at, right? Is we still
Yeah.
want to guide and we still want to teach, but being a little creative about it, right? So
Mhm.
that might be, if your kiddo likes to play basketball, go outside, play some basketball
Mhm.
with them,
Mhm.
throw some questions in there, right?
Yeah.
If make it a game. If I shoot so many basketballs or score so many points in our
Mhm.
game together, you have to answer a question,
Yeah.
or hear them out, right? If they are saying at this time, I'm not ready to have this conversation, or they just got home from school, we want to know, how was
Mhm.
your school day? Sometimes we just need that break. And you mentioned earlier, right? We get home from work and we're like, we just need a little
Like
bit
a
of a
little breather,
pause.
yeah.
And then we can come back.
Mhm.
Setting some times later on in the day or the evening before nighttime or whatever works best for your family, of, you know, letting the kids know they have this specific time
Mhm.
to look forward to, where we're going to talk about it, or we're going to sit together, or
Mhm.
we're going to explore this together. With younger kiddos, sometimes it goes a little easier. They're excited to share
Mhm.
about their day and
Yeah.
things that they learn. And so they'll just kind of tell you off right away, this is
Mhm.
what happened, this is who I met. But again, just taking a stance of creativity and curiosity, of like, okay,
Mhm.
you let me know what's going
Mm.
on.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can kind of come in with all the questions, and then that's just a lot to think about sometimes.
Yeah.
So just making it fun, making it creative, kind of seeing where they're at and meeting them where they're at,
Mhm.
and then circling back. I know
Mhm.
sometimes it takes a little bit of time out of our day. That's okay.
Mhm.
We can find somewhere in the middle that works for kids and teens as well as you, the parent.
Yeah.
And yeah.
These were great points that you mentioned that
Mhm.
at. And another question that I wanted to ask, because we've been focusing on teens a lot. What about kids? They've been
Yeah.
home for the past 4 or 5 years. They're having to go to school now every day, right? How can parents help them better adjust to that new routine?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Empowerment, right, for the
Mm,
little kiddos, especially that age where they're going into this whole new environment. They've been used to their home, their space, their
mm,
primary family, whoever that may be, right? And it's a little bit of anxiety provoking for
mhm,
the littles and also for parents or caregivers in general. So empowering everyone, right? We
mhm,
can do this, positive affirmations,
mhm,
going ahead and preparing them with, you are going to be interacting with other people. How do we listen to the teacher? Or let's practice this together, right?
mhm,
5-10 minutes of the day to just go through a little bit of waking up in the morning, or a little bit of putting on our shoes, right?
mhm.
Um, Doing a little bit of role play with your kiddo,
Yeah.
right? Is like, how do we say this to the teacher? If we need to go to the bathroom, how do we raise our
Mhm,
hand? If we need to share with someone, what do we say?
mhm,
So going ahead and just practicing with them, because that's how kiddos learn. All
mm.
kiddos,
Yeah.
most of us as human beings, but primarily the younger kids, is through what
Mhm,
is modeled to them and what they're seeing. And so if we can be that primary role and teacher of, all right, let's do this together, we're already setting them up for success.
yeah.
Um, Being gracious and compassionate towards yourself and towards your
Mhm,
kiddos, right? Is at the end of the day, checking in, maybe giving them a hug, spending 5 minutes with them,
mhm,
doing something really fun or calming together,
mhm,
to reconnect and foster that connection once, they've been in school all day and they've been
mhm.
learning new things and seeing new places and hearing new things. Just kind of coming back into that familiarity once you're back home, or once you're back in your, personal space. And then let's do this again, right? Let's try
Yeah.
again, and then just checking in with them, right?
Mhm,
That may look different for every family, and for every kid individually.
mhm,
However, what is most realistic for you guys is what I would
mhm.
recommend, right? Just to help them during those transitions, and it just takes time. I
Yeah.
want to emphasize
True.
that
Yeah.
heavily. Is that it'll take a couple of weeks,
Mhm,
maybe. It could take a month, right? And so I know earlier I mentioned persistency in some of these behaviors.
mhm.
That's when you can ask for help, right? We don't have to
Mhm.
necessarily be in a crisis, but we
Yeah.
can be in a place where this is new to all of us. Can I just
Mhm.
get some support to express myself, or to help
Yeah.
teach some of these skills, or get ideas on what might be the best plan of action to
Mhm.
move through these stages in life, right? And then we're going to feel a lot more confident towards the end, and we might not need to continue therapy, right? So also just emphasizing that it takes time and yes, work, but also there's help and there's support
Yeah.
for all families, right? That is what one of our focuses here at MJS, but also why we have child and adolescent therapists.
Yeah, that's true. And I think these were really great points that you mentioned. And I know, helping the littles kind of get back into the routine is essential. But then also, what if, like as a kid, it's hard for you to label emotions, right? You don't know if you're feeling sad. Well, you know the basics, right? A lot of kids loved Inside Out and they love those movies.
Yeah.
But how can parents kind of help kids be able to label their emotions better so that way they're not like, well, I don't know what I'm feeling there,
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And I think that's a good foundation for all of us, right? Inside Out is a great movie. But pictures, facial expressions, body language, tone of voice, those are the things that we're going to look at when we're trying to identify emotions and name them. And at times, just verbalizing them as adults to our kids, right? How are we feeling? Does your body feel calm? Does your body feel a little fuzzy inside? Does it feel like you've got those butterflies in your tummy? I'm feeling kind of sad. You look kind of sad, right? Or I feel statements are a great way to start, but also just helping kiddos identify how to pick that up, right? If my body language is closed off, if my head is down, well, I might be feeling sad or bored, right? If I've got a smile on my face, my eyes are big, my voice, right? My volume is loud, my tone of voice is more excited, then I'm probably a little happier, right? And so we can model that to our kids. We can help them identify that, whether that's in a book, whether that is on TV, whether that's in the family room, right? And as they start to hear and they pick up on it, you'll hear their language start to change a little bit. You can ask them about their friends at school, right? What do you see at school? And they will tell you, and then you can help them label those emotions and experiences, and they grow in their emotional vocabulary and their emotional awareness, and it gives them a good foundation to move into bigger emotions and more complex emotions.
Thank you so much, Laura. These were all really great points. And to kind of end the session, I wanted to ask you one last question. What is one tip you would give to parents? Everything we've talked about, what is one tip you would give to them to kind of also take care of themselves, right? Like they're stressed about their kids. They're like, how can I help them? I don't want to cause any more drama onto them. Like, what can I do? But also give them a tip for them, right? What can they do for themselves?
You matter too, right? Oftentimes I hear from parents that once my kiddos are at a good place, then I will take care of myself. How kiddos learn is what you model to them. So if you are actively taking care of yourself, they're going to then learn how to take care of themselves as well. And as much as we would all like a vacation or, some extravagant things come to mind when we think about self-care, it is simply having 5 minutes to enjoy your cup of coffee. It is having a few minutes to listen to your favorite song down the road, on your way to, and, on your commute to work or to school, drop off, pick up. It is simply those small, medium, they could be big things, but they're significant. They help recharge you. They help ground you. They help give you a sense of calm. And that's the goal, right? And then we can work towards those bigger, more extravagant self-care, events and activities. But essentially anything that is significant to just improving your well-being, even if it's for those 5 minutes, that's my tip, right? Focus on that and then go from there.
And I like how you mentioned it, like you put it into something that you're already doing, right? You're not like, I think most people have to think of they think of self-care like an additional thing you have to do. Whereas you said, like, if you're already like have a 10-minute commute to work, then it's like, okay, well, listen to a song you like or do something that you like to do that's already part of your routine. It doesn't necessarily need to be something added to it. But thank you so much, Laura. I really enjoyed having you here. And if you want to see her, comment below any topics you would like for her to talk about. Thank you, guys.
Bye.